Hello, my name is Jennifer. I want to tell you something very important, something that changed my life. I want to share my journey of learning how to talk in English fluently and confidently. I still remember that cold morning in January. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a warm cup of tea, staring out the window. The sky was gray, and everything felt quiet. But inside me there was a storm of thoughts. I had just finished another video call at work where I had barely spoken. My manager asked a question, and I knew the answer, but I stayed silent. Again, that silence wasn't because I didn't know the answer. It was because I didn't trust my English. My heart raced every time I had to speak in a meeting. I would prepare lines in my head, but when the moment came, I froze. My voice just wouldn't come out, and even if I did say something, I worried that my grammar wasn't right, or that I had the wrong word. I kept thinking, what if I sound foolish? What if they laugh at me? That morning something changed. I looked at my reflection in the glass of the window and whispered, I want to change. My voice was soft, but my heart felt strong. I didn't know how to begin, but I knew I had to start. Not tomorrow, not next week. That day I walked to my room, stood in front of the mirror, and looked at myself. I felt nervous, like I was about to give a speech in front of a crowd. My face looked unsure, but I lifted my chin and said out loud, my name is Jennifer. That was it. One simple sentence, and I smiled. It was a small step, but it felt like a mountain. Speaking English aloud, even just one sentence, was a big deal for me. I hadn't done that in months. I had been avoiding it, hiding behind texts and emails, staying quiet in group conversations. But now, for the first time, I was trying. I had taken the first step. The next day I came back to the mirror. I said a new sentence. I am drinking tea. It felt strange at first. I knew it was a simple sentence, but I said it anyway. I said it once, then again. Then a third time. The more I said it, the easier it felt. My voice became steadier. I even added a smile at the end. Each day I added one more sentence to my practice. Sometimes I would say something about my day, like I am going to work or it is raining. Today, other times I would try to describe how I felt. I am happy or I feel nervous. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was mine. I didn't care about grammar. I didn't care if my pronunciation was 100% correct. I just wanted to speak. I wanted to stop being afraid of my own voice. After a week, something wonderful happened. I started looking forward to this little moment in front of the mirror. It became my special time. I would wake up a few minutes earlier just to say my English sentences, and slowly, I started adding more. One sentence became 2, then 3, then 5. I began telling myself short stories. For example, I would say, today is Monday. I will go to the office. I have a meeting at 10 a.m. I hope it goes well. I will speak if I know the answer. This tiny story made me feel like I was ready for the day. It gave me confidence, even before leaving the house. It was like giving myself a little push, a small reminder that I was trying, and that was enough. Some days were harder than others. There were mornings when I felt tired or upset. On those days, I went back to just one sentence. I reminded myself that one sentence is better than none. Progress is still progress, even when it's small. I kept a small notebook with me where I wrote down the sentences I liked. I also wrote words that I found interesting. For example, one day I said, I like flowers, and I thought, maybe I should learn more words about nature. So I wrote down tree, grass, leaves, and practiced those too. Sometimes I would challenge myself. I would pick a random object in my room, a chair, a book, my pillow, and try to say something about it in English. For example, this chair is brown. It is very old. I bought it 2 years ago. These little moments helped me think in English. They helped me see my daily life through the lens of a new language. My mirror became my teacher. It never judged me. It didn't correct me or make me feel small. It just showed me my face, my effort, my progress. Every word I said felt like a small brick, and day by day, I was building a house of confidence. After about 3 weeks, I noticed a big change. At work, I began to answer simple questions without fear. If someone asked, "How was your weekend?" I didn't panic. I smiled and said, "It was good." I went shopping. I bought some fruit. That might sound like a basic answer, but for me it was a huge step. I started to believe in myself. I wasn't fluent yet. I wasn't speaking long paragraphs, but I had found something even more valuably. Had found courage. My family also noticed. One evening while we were having dinner, my younger sister said, "Jennifer, you sound more confident when you speak English now." I laughed, a little embarrassed, but deep inside I felt proud. I told her about my one-sentence-a-day routine. She said, "That's such a good idea, maybe I'll try it too." That made me smile. If I could inspire someone else even a little, it meant I was really growing by the end of the month. I had built a habit, and that habit started to change my thoughts. I no longer told myself I can't speak English. I started saying, I am learning to speak English. That shift in my mind made everything easier, and then, one morning, something very interesting happened. I was brushing my hair and looking into the mirror ready to say my daily sentences. But that day I didn't just speak. I started having a little conversation with myself. I asked, "What will I do today?" And I answered, "I will finish my report and then go for a walk." That moment surprised me. I wasn't reading from a notebook. I wasn't repeating something I had prepared. I was simply speaking from my mind. I was thinking in English. It felt like magic, but really it was practice. All those one-sentence days had built up to this. I had started small, but my brain was now ready for more. From that day I began to expand my routine. Instead of just saying sentences, I started having full mini conversations with myself. I would talk about my plans, how I was feeling, or what I had done the day before. I would even imagine that I was talking to a friend. I'd say things like, "Hi, how are you?" and then answer, "I'm good, just a little tired today." It felt playful and fun. I was learning without stress. I didn't need a classroom. I didn't need a textbook. I just needed my voice and a little courage. This new way of speaking gave me more confidence than any grammar book ever had. I realized that fluency isn't just about knowing big words. It's about being able to express yourself even with simple words. Each conversation with myself made my English feel more natural. I stopped hesitating. I stopped translating everything in my head. My thoughts started to come out smoothly, like water from a tap. And the best part, I didn't feel afraid anymore. I wasn't just learning English, I was living it. That was the moment. I understood something very important. Speaking English fluently doesn't begin with perfect grammar or long vocabulary lists. It begins with just one sentence. One brave sentence said out loud. Every day. That's exactly what I did. But once I started speaking to myself more, something even more exciting began to happen, and that takes me to the next part of my journey. After that beautiful moment in the mirror when I asked myself, "What will I do today?" and answered without thinking too hard, I felt something change inside me. It was a quiet but powerful shift. For the first time, I wasn't just practicing English. I was speaking to myself in English, not as a student trying to memorize words, but as a real person, someone who wanted to be heard, even if it was only by the mirror at first. That day, after finishing my little conversation, I looked at my reflection and smiled. "You did great, Jennifer," I said. My voice was gentle, and for some reason it felt warmer than usual. I blinked and paused. Wait, I thought, did I just compliment myself in English? Out loud? Yes, I had, and it felt good. Later that evening, as I was lying in bed, I kept thinking about that moment. I realized something important. Every time I practiced speaking English in the mirror, I was talking to myself like a teacher or a student. I was often focused on the correctness. Did I use the right verb? Was that the proper tense? Should I have used going to instead of will? But that morning I hadn't worried about any of that. I had simply spoken from the heart. I had spoken like a friend. That realization stayed with me. It opened a door I didn't know existed. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror and tried something different. Instead of repeating pre-planned sentences or trying to explain my day like a news report, I started with a feeling. I looked at myself and said, "Hey Jennifer, how are you feeling today?" At first it felt silly. Talking to yourself like this isn't something we're used to doing, but I pushed the thought aside and replied softly, "I feel a little tired, but I'm okay." And just like that, a conversation began. "Why are you tired?" I asked. "I didn't sleep well. I was thinking too much." "What were you thinking about?" "I'm worried about tomorrow's meeting. I hope I don't freeze again." It felt strange and beautiful at the same time. I wasn't acting or pretending. I was being honest. I was using English not to show off, not to practice grammar, but to be kind to myself. And in that moment, English felt like a bridge to my inner world. It was no longer something I had to fight. It became a way for me to connect with myself. From that day forward, I made a new rule. I would speak to myself every morning like a friend, not like a teacher, not like a strict coach, but like the friend I always needed, the one who understands, listens, and never laughs when I make a mistake. So, every morning, I started my day with a conversation in the mirror. Sometimes it was short. "Hey Jennifer, good morning, ready for today?" "I think so, let's just take it slow." Other times it went longer. "Jennifer, you've been working hard lately. I know, I feel a bit tired. Then maybe we should take a short walk later. The fresh air will help you, right?" That sounds nice. And the amazing part, the more I talked this way, the more natural English began to feel. I wasn't searching for big words or trying to sound smart. I was simply trying to be kind to myself. And when you're kind, your words come out softer, slower, and easier. Something else started happening too. I became more emotionally connected to the language. Before, English was something I studied in school. It was rules, tests, and pressure. But now, it became the voice I used to support myself. It became my comfort. There was one morning I'll never forget. I had had a really tough night. I had made a small mistake in an email at work, a missing word, and someone pointed it out sharply in a team chat. My face turned red. I didn't respond. I just sat there, heart sinking. That night, I replayed the moment over and over in my mind, feeling embarrassed and defeated. The next morning I didn't feel like talking at all. I avoided the mirror. I brushed my teeth in silence, but something inside me whispered, "Go stand there, just for a second." So I did. I looked into the mirror. My eyes were tired, and I felt like crying. But instead I took a deep breath and said in English, "Jennifer, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes." The words were shaky, but they were true. "You're still learning. That doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're brave." That day, I didn't need grammar practice. I needed self-love, and I gave it to myself in English. This simple habit, talking to myself like a friend, became my therapy. It helped me in more ways than I could count. When I was nervous, I said, "It's okay to be nervous." When I was proud, I said, "Good job, I'm proud of you." When I was sad, I said, "Let's just breathe. It's going to be okay." And always, always in English. At first, I only did it in the mornings. But soon, I found myself doing it throughout the day, quietly in my head, or softly under my breath. While walking to work, I'd say, "You got this." Before a meeting, I'd whisper, "Just try. That's all you need to do." These little phrases became my English affirmations, and they were magic. Another special thing happened. My inner voice started speaking in English too. When I was walking home and thinking about my to-do list, I would naturally think, "I have to buy milk." Not that tengo que comprar leche or each moss. Milk. Often my thoughts came in English. That was a big moment for me. It meant I wasn't just practicing anymore, I was living the language. People often ask me now, "Jennifer, how did you get so fluent?" They expect me to say, "I took a course," or "I went abroad." But that's not what happened. I tell them, I talk to myself every single day like a best friend. They laugh at first. Then they ask, "Really?" And I say, "Yes." That's how I learned to trust my voice. And it's true. Because here's the thing. Before you can speak English with others, you must first learn to speak with yourself. You must become your own practice partner, your own encourager, your own safe place. Talking to myself like a friend helped me not just with my words, but with my fear. When I made mistakes, I didn't punish myself. I comforted myself. When I forgot a word, I didn't panic. I calmly looked for another. When I couldn't finish a sentence, I smiled and tried again. This new way of speaking helped me learn one of the most important lessons of all. Fluency is not the same as perfection. Fluency means being able to keep going, even when you're not perfect. And that's exactly what I was doing. Over time, this habit also helped me with my emotions. I began to feel less anxious. I stopped overthinking every sentence. I stopped judging myself. My mirror talks had trained me to respond with kindness, not just in English, but in life. Some evenings I would even do a good night chat with myself. I would say things like, "You did well today. You spoke up in the meeting, that was brave." Or, "You were quiet today, but that's okay too." Tomorrow is a new chance. These words weren't from a teacher or a book. They came from me, and because of that, they were powerful. One afternoon, while waiting at the bus stop, a tourist came up to me and asked, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the train station is?" I felt a small rush of nerves, but then I remembered my morning words. "You got this." I smiled and replied clearly, "Yes, walk straight and turn left at the next traffic light. You'll see the station sign." The man thanked me and walked away. I stood there for a moment, surprised. I had just spoken English to a stranger, and I hadn't even thought twice. That's when I knew my conversations with myself had given me the confidence to speak to others. I had practiced being kind, clear, and calm, and now that kindness flowed into my real conversations. My journey was far from over. But this way of speaking to myself, had become a turning point. I had built something strong inside me. Not just words, but trust. Not just vocabulary, but self-love. And now, because I had grown so much inside, I was ready to try something even braver, speaking with another person. Not just in the mirror, not just in my head, but face to face. And that, my friend, is where my next chapter begins. After I became comfortable speaking to myself in English, after all those soft, honest conversations in the mirror, I realized something. I didn't need to wait for perfect moments anymore. I didn't have to sit at a desk with a grammar book, or wait for an English class or a language exchange partner. English was already inside me. It was becoming part of my thoughts, my feelings, my voice. And then I thought, what if I took it one step further? What if I didn't treat English like homework anymore, but like life itself? So I made a promise to myself. I would not just practice English during a fixed time. I would live with it. I would walk with it. I would eat with it. I would carry English with me the same way I carry my phone or my keys. Not as a burden, but as something useful and familiar. And that's exactly what I did. The next morning, instead of checking my phone for texts in my native language, I opened a short English news app. The words felt slightly difficult at first, but I didn't pressure myself to understand every word. I just read slowly. "Rain expected today," the article said. I looked outside as the clouds were gray. "Rain," I whispered, smiling. "Okay. I need my umbrella." That small interaction between the app, my window, and my thoughts became my first real English moment of the day. It felt natural. I made other changes too. Tiny ones at first, but meaningful. When I made my morning coffee, I would say, "Pour the water, add the coffee, stir slowly," out loud like a soft narration. I wasn't pretending to host a cooking show. I was simply including English in my routines. It helped me stay present, and it trained my brain to connect real-life actions with real English words. Then, when I got dressed, I would think, which shirt should I wear today? The blue one or the white one? Before, those questions would come to me in my native language, but now I practiced asking and answering them in English. I even laughed at myself sometimes. "Jennifer, you have way too many white shirts. Pick the blue one today." At work, I couldn't speak English much because everyone around me used our native language, but that didn't stop me. During breaks, I would quietly write down little English sentences in my notebook, things like "I finished the report," or "I felt nervous in the meeting." Simple expressions, honest thoughts. Later, when I had time, I'd read those sentences again and speak them out loud when I was alone. I also started changing the settings on my phone and laptop to English. This was scary at first. I was afraid I'd press the wrong button and mess something up, but after the first few days, I got used to it. Now, instead of seeing gallery or settings in my language, I saw photos and settings in English. It didn't feel like studying. It felt like living, and I loved it. One day, while waiting for the bus, I looked up and started naming everything I saw in English. Tree, street light, yellow car, traffic light, old man walking girl with a red jacket. I whispered softly to myself. No one noticed. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I just wanted my eyes and words to connect more naturally, and they did. The world became an English classroom, and everything in it became a new word or phrase. I also found new ways to have fun with English. On weekends, I watched my favorite romantic comedies, but this time, in English. At first, I used English subtitles to help. I paused often and repeated funny lines. I wasn't trying to memorize the script. I just wanted to enjoy it. I laughed, I listened, and I learned without pressure. That's the key. When you stop making English a job and start making it part of your fun, it becomes a friend. Music helped, too. I created a playlist of English songs that made me feel something: joy, hope, strength. I listened while walking, while doing dishes, even while brushing my hair. Some songs had fast lyrics, but I didn't worry about understanding every word. I let the rhythm and emotions speak to me. Sometimes, a single phrase from a song would stay in my mind all day. "You're stronger than you know," or "Keep going, girl." And I would whisper those words to myself in tough moments. Even my shopping changed. When I went to the grocery store, I would read the labels in English first if possible. I would make my shopping list in English: milk, eggs, pasta, apples, shampoo. These small switches didn't cost me time. They cost me effort. Yes, but they gave me confidence in return. I also began describing my thoughts as I walked down the street. "It's windy today. I should walk faster. My shoes are making noise. I forgot my umbrella again." These little thoughts, spoken softly in English, helped my brain stay active. They were like seeds, and every seed grew into fluency, slowly but surely. One day I met a foreign tourist near the park. He looked lost. "Excuse me," he asked. "Do you know where the metro station is?" Without thinking, I replied, "Yes. Walk straight and turn left at the corner. You'll see the sign." He smiled. "Thank you." "You're welcome," I said, and kept walking. After a few steps I stopped. I smiled to myself. That was the second time I had helped someone in English, and this time I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. That night, I wrote in my journal in English. I had been keeping a small journal just for myself, nothing too fancy, just honest entries. Today I helped someone in English. I didn't panic. I felt calm. I think I'm getting better. Reading those lines weeks later filled me with pride. Sometimes I didn't feel like speaking. On tired days, I would just listen. I listened to podcasts made for English learners. I listened to YouTube videos while cooking. I even left the TV on in the background while folding clothes. I wasn't focused all the time, but my ears were learning. My brain was soaking up the sounds, the rhythm, the tone, the feeling of English. And slowly those sounds started coming out of me more naturally. Once, while cooking, I dropped a spoon. Without thinking, I said, "Oh no," out loud. In English. It was a small moment, but it felt big to me. I didn't plan it. It just happened. That's when I realized English was no longer something outside of me. It had become part of me. Even my dreams began to change. One night I dreamed I was in a coffee shop, ordering in English. "Can I have a cappuccino, please?" I said. The cashier replied, "Sure. Would you like sugar with that?" I answered, "No, thank you." And then I woke up smiling. A dream in English. It felt unreal. I also made new friends online, not formal language partners, just people from different countries who spoke English. We talked about movies, food, and hobbies. Sometimes we sent voice messages. At first I was nervous. My hands would shake, but I kept going. I remembered my mirror talks, my songs, my small whispers on the street, and I used that voice. My own voice. Making English part of my daily life didn't mean I was perfect. I still made mistakes. I still forgot words. I still felt shy sometimes. But the difference was this: I never let English become something separate again. It was now part of my thoughts, my actions, my heart. I remember one day clearly. I was walking home in the rain, without an umbrella. Again, I laughed to myself and said, "Jennifer, when will you learn?" And then I thought, I just scolded myself. In English, that's fluency. Right there. When you can be sarcastic with yourself in another language, you've made it. Looking back, I think this was the step that made everything possible. Talking to myself in the mirror had given me courage, but making English part of my life had given me freedom. I no longer had to find time for English. I simply lived it. I didn't treat it like a guest. I treated it like family. And as I walked into my kitchen, made some tea, and turned on my favorite English podcast, I realized something else. I wasn't just learning English anymore. I was becoming an English speaker, and that felt like magic. But my journey wasn't over yet. I was doing well alone, but now I wanted to take a bigger step, to practice with someone else, someone real, someone who wouldn't laugh or correct me too much, someone safe. And that's exactly what happened next. I had already made English a part of my life. It was in my coffee talks, my mirror conversations, my daily thoughts. But deep down, I knew there was still one mountain I hadn't climbed: speaking with real people. I had done everything else on my own. I had built a strong foundation, but now I needed to test it. Not in a scary way, not in a classroom or an interview, but in a warm, human, forgiving way. I didn't want perfection. I wanted kindness. I remember sitting on my bed one Sunday afternoon, looking at my phone. I had joined a language learning app a few weeks earlier. It had groups for practicing languages, kind of like small communities. I had read many posts there, people asking for advice, sharing tips, even offering to talk. One message caught my eye. A girl named Emily had written, looking for someone to practice English with. I make mistakes, but I try my best. I stared at her message for a while. That line, I make mistakes, but I try my best, felt like something I could have written. With shaky fingers I replied, "Hi Emily. I'm also trying to improve. Maybe we can talk." She answered within an hour, "Sure, I'd love that. I'm not fluent, but I enjoy learning with friendly people." That was all I needed. Not fluent, just friendly. That night we had our first voice chat. I remember how nervous I felt. My heart was racing, my hand hovered over the call button. I almost cancelled, but I remembered my journey so far: the daily whispers, the mirror practice, the coffee narration, and I told myself, "You're ready to try. You don't need to be perfect." I tapped start call. "Hello," Emily said, her voice warm and a little nervous. "Hi, I'm Jennifer," I said, smiling even though she couldn't see me. We talked for 10 minutes that first time. Just 10, but it was enough. We spoke slowly, helping each other finish sentences. We laughed when we couldn't find the right words. "What's the word for, the thing with lights on the road?" Emily asked. "Traffic light," I guessed. "Yes, that." She said it was like we were building a small bridge together, one word at a time. The best part was this: we never corrected each other in a harsh way. We just listened. We supported. We didn't care about grammar. We cared about connection. After a few calls, we became friends. We started texting in English daily, sometimes only a few lines. "How was your day?" I made pancakes. I watched a movie but didn't understand all of it. Every sentence, even the simple ones, helped me grow. And because Emily made mistakes too, I never felt small. I felt equal. That's when I realized something very important. You don't need perfect people to practice English. You need kind people. Kindness opens the door to confidence. Perfection shuts it. One evening Emily said something that stayed with me. "You know, I used to think native speakers were the only ones who could help me, but I feel like I'm learning more by talking to someone like you." That touched me because I had always felt the same. We were learners, yes, but we were also teachers to each other. We corrected gently, encouraged often, and never laughed at each other's accents. After a few weeks, I felt brave enough to join another group video call with 3 other learners. I was nervous again, of course, but now I had proof that I could survive the fear. I had done it with Emily. I could do it again. The call began. There was Anna from Brazil, Farah from Egypt, and David from Spain. We all said hello in shy voices. But slowly, the ice began to melt. Someone mentioned coffee. I shared my favorite flavor. Farah joked about how strong Egyptian coffee was. David said he didn't like coffee at all, he preferred tea, and we all laughed. During that call, I stumbled on a word. I was watching what do you call the show with episodes? Series, Anna asked kindly. "Yes, series," I said. "No problem." She smiled. "It happens to me too." And just like that, another fear disappeared. I was speaking, not perfectly but freely, and people were listening, not judging. That night, I wrote something new in my English journal. Speaking with others is not scary if they are kind, and most people are kinder than we think. The next few months were magical. I began looking forward to my English calls and chats. I was practiced with different people. Some were advanced, some were beginners. It didn't matter. What mattered was the spirit: kindness, patience, and encouragement. One of my favorite speaking partners was an older woman named Helen from the UK. We connected through a learning forum. She had retired and now volunteered to speak with learners. Her English was, of course, perfect, but her heart was even better. "Jennifer, I'm not here to correct you," she said on our first call. I'm here to enjoy a conversation with you." Her voice was gentle, like a kind grandmother. Every time I got stuck, she waited. She never rushed me. She never said, "That's wrong." Instead, she'd ask, "Would you like to try that again? What do you mean?" And then offer a word. Her kindness gave me the courage to stretch my sentences, to try new expressions, to share deeper stories. We talked about everything: books, weather, food, even dreams. She once asked, "If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?" "New York," I said. "Why New York?" "Because I want to stand in Times Square and just hear the sound of English all around me." She smiled. "And one day you will, and you'll understand it all." That sentence filled me with hope. Not everyone I met was like Helen. Some people corrected too much. Some people spoke too fast. Some didn't listen well. But I learned to let those people go. I didn't need perfect partners. I needed kind ones. And I was learning to find them. I also learned to be kind to others. When I practiced with beginners, I remembered how I once felt. I waited patiently. I encouraged them. I never laughed when someone made a mistake. I said things like, "You're doing great," or "Take your time. I'm listening." That's how kindness grows. It spreads. One day, a girl named Mia from Thailand messaged me, "I'm shy. I'm not good at speaking. Can you help me?" I remembered those exact words living inside me once. I wrote back, "Of course, we can take it slow, no pressure." Our first call was quiet. Mia spoke very softly. She paused a lot, but I didn't rush her. I smiled and used simple words. Slowly, she opened up. A week later, she sent me a message. "Jennifer, thank you for not judging me. I feel safe speaking with you." That moment was one of my proudest, because now I wasn't just learning English, I was helping others learn too. And that made me feel powerful. There were still days I made mistakes, still times I got shy, still moments when I couldn't find the right words. But they didn't stop me anymore. Because now I had a circle of kind voices around me, people who reminded me that learning is messy, and that's okay. Kindness gave me wings. If you're learning English and you're scared to speak, I want to tell you something. Don't wait for the perfect speaker. Look for kind ones. Look for people who listen more than they talk. People who laugh with you, not at you. People who cheer for your small wins. I promise you, those people are out there. And when you find them, your confidence will grow like never before. That as I continued speaking with kind people, something beautiful happened. English stopped feeling foreign. It felt like a language of friendship, of laughter, of trust. And I knew I had come so far. But there was still one step left. I wanted to take all this practice, all this kindness, and use it in the real world. I wanted to speak fluently and confidently, not just with friends, but with strangers in real life, with a real voice. And that's exactly what came next. I still remember the first time I spoke English to a stranger without feeling like I was pretending. It was a warm morning and I had gone to a small bookstore in my city. They had recently opened a new section for foreign language books, and I was curious to see if they had anything interesting in English. As I walked through the quiet aisles, I saw a young woman near the English novels section. She looked up and smiled as I reached for the same book she was holding. "Oh, sorry," she said. And without even thinking, I replied, "No, it's okay. You can go first." She paused and looked surprised, then smiled again. "Thanks. I love this author." "So do I," I said, without hesitation. That was it. A small exchange. Less than 20 words, but it felt huge. I wasn't rehearsing in my head. I wasn't translating. I was just talking naturally, like myself. That moment didn't come because I had become fluent overnight. It happened because somewhere along the way, I started believing in myself even before my English was perfect. I didn't wait for a certificate or a teacher's approval or a magical sign. I gave myself permission to believe, to accept that I was good enough to try, good enough to speak, good enough to keep learning. Let me take you back a bit. There was a time I thought fluency meant knowing everything, speaking fast, understanding every word, using perfect grammar. I thought people would laugh at me if I made mistakes. I thought I needed to be perfect to deserve confidence. But the truth is, fluency doesn't give you confidence. Confidence that helps you become fluent. That's something I had to learn the hard way. Back when I was practicing with Emily and Helen and others, there were still days I felt small. I would hear someone speaking quickly on a podcast and think, I'll never talk like that. Or I'd watch a movie and understand only 70% of the dialogue and feel like a failure. One night I even cried. I was trying to write a short post in English about my day, and I couldn't find the right words. Everything sounded wrong. I kept editing and deleting. I felt stuck. I looked at my reflection and whispered, maybe I'm not good at this. But something inside me pushed back. A quiet, steady voice said, you've come this far. Don't stop now. I sat down and wrote something simple. Today was hard, but I'm still learning. And that is enough. It was honest, real, imperfect, but powerful. That night I made a decision. I would stop chasing perfection and start believing in progress. I would believe in the Jennifer who had already practiced for months, the Jennifer who had spoken kindly to Mia, the Jennifer who had shared laughs with Emily. That version of me, imperfect but brave, deserved to feel proud. From that moment on, my mindset changed. I stopped calling myself a beginner. I stopped saying my English is bad. I replaced those words with something more true. I'm growing every day. When people asked about my English, I didn't say, I'm still learning, with a shy voice. I said it with confidence. I started seeing myself as someone on a journey, not someone behind. You see, believing in yourself doesn't mean pretending you're fluent. It means respecting your effort. It means being kind to yourself when you forget a word. It means saying, yes, I made a mistake, but I tried, and that's what matters. Every day, I reminded myself confidence is a choice, not a reward. I chose it, even on bad days. Even when I spoke slowly. Even when I didn't understand a joke. One time, I joined a group event in my city called Language Exchange Night. It was held in a small cafe and people came to practice speaking different languages. I was nervous, of course, but I wore my favorite outfit, tied my hair back, and walked in like I belonged there. The moment I introduced myself to a group, my voice trembled. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm learning English. A man named Ben smiled and said, great. That's what we're here for. We talked for 10 minutes. I stumbled a few times, but I kept going. I smiled when I didn't know the right word. I used gestures. I laughed at my own mistakes. And guess what? People were kind. They didn't correct me rudely. They listened. After the event, Ben told me, you're really confident. Are you an advanced learner? I laughed. Not really. I just stopped being afraid. That's when I realized people don't always notice your grammar. They notice your energy, your smile, your effort. I met another girl that night, Amira. She had been learning English for a year. She spoke slowly but clearly. We became friends and promised to meet once a week for practice. Over coffee one afternoon, she asked me, Jennifer, how are you so confident? And I told her the truth, because I decided to be, even before I was ready. Confidence isn't something you earn at the finish line. It's something you bring to the starting line. I started reading English books out loud, not because I understood every word, but because I wanted to hear myself speak with power. I started watching interviews with subtitles, pausing, repeating, and practicing the tone. I didn't wait for someone to approve me. I approved myself. Yes, I still made mistakes. I still forgot words, but I stopped apologizing for it. I replaced sorry, my English is bad, with thanks for being patient while I find the right word. That small shift changed everything. I also stopped comparing myself to native speakers. Their journey was different. They grew up with the language. I was growing into it. My journey was valid too. I started looking in the mirror every morning and saying, your English is getting better every day. It felt silly at first, but over time I believed it. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about being the best. Sometimes it's a quiet decision you make when no one's watching. I am enough. One day I walked into a small tourist center near my home. A woman from France was looking for directions. The staff didn't speak her language well, and she seemed confused. I stepped forward and said, can I help you? She looked at me, surprised. Yes, please. Do you speak English? Yes, I nodded. How can I help? She explained her situation, and I helped translate directions for her. She smiled and said, your English is very good. And for the first time, I didn't feel shy or modest. I said, thank you. I've worked hard on it. Because I had. Simple moment helping someone with my English felt like magic. It wasn't about showing off. It was about using my voice to connect, to support, to be useful. That's what English had become for me. A tool for kindness, for confidence, for life. Even now, I still make mistakes. Sometimes I forget a word. Sometimes I mispronounce something, but those moments don't stop me anymore because I trust myself. I believe in the girl who started with one sentence a day, who talked to herself in her bedroom, who made English a part of her life, who practiced with kind people. I believe in me and that belief. That's the reason I can now talk in English fluently and confidently, not perfectly, but fearlessly. If you're reading this and wondering when you'll feel confident, let me tell you, you don't have to wait. Believe in yourself now. Right now, with all your mistakes, all your doubts, all your learning left to do, your belief will carry you through. Your belief will become your fluency.